Hello, everybody, and welcome to my Boomer Buddies podcast, where we tell it like it was and is. My name's Rick Reed, your host. Today, my co-host, well, my day's already made. It's Ron Tunes Tunby, and we're going to talk about something pretty cool today, all you boomers out there and music lovers.
Yeah, definitely.
Ron, so good to have you here today. What are you going to talk about with me?
Well, Rick, it's good to be here. And yeah, as usual, I love talking about music. I mean, I could talk about other things too, but music is it. Yeah, I want to talk about instrumentals. It's not something I consciously thought of when I listened to them as a kid, but as I got older, I liked them. These songs are really kind of good. But the older I got, the more I appreciated them. And then doing some research on this, all these songs just brought back memories, just like that's what songs can do. Memories. Most of the time good, sometimes not that good, but it'll bring you up, it'll bring you down when you want. And memories of these songs especially from the past, even from when I was a single digit kid, I heard some of these songs. So I'm going to start off with, my parents didn't have a lot of albums, but they bought, like a lot of people did, they bought a piece of furniture. They bought just a few albums and they never played it. They just wanted to have the piece of furniture that played record player. This is a song, one of my earliest memories is a theme from A Summer Place. It was a Summer Place was a movie, and it was Percy Faith who was up there with Henry Mancini and some other band leaders. And just a beautiful song. And I must have heard it on TV shows like Ed Sullivan. I wasn't listening to an easy listening channel or anything. Listen to rock and roll. But a theme from A Summer Place by Percy Faith, it hit number one in the Billboard 100 in 1960. So I was 6 years old, and then I played it ever since then. And my wife, Barbara, when I was doing this, I played it for her without saying what it was, and she knew exactly what it was right away. And she was 1 year old when it came out. But it's one of those beautiful, beautiful orchestrated themes.
I really like the strings. The strings is an emotional set of instruments, because they can put you in a mood, like angels are around you,
right?
Or brings out emotions in you. That song in particular really does that to me when I listen to it.
Yeah, and you think of A Summer Place because it's just kind of warm and inviting. Instrumentals can really, really charge you up, and I'm not going to get into detail. I even listened to some operas, and there's an overture that I didn't know Mozart wrote an opera, and he wrote Marriage to Figaro. And the overture, when I listened to it, it's one of the best pieces of music. It's only 3 minutes long. I just want to get up and dance or clean the house or something. Anyway. All right, I'll go on from there. Another early song, and this has some relevance for today. And like I mentioned, Percy Faith and the Henry Mancini. And he was probably the number one conductor, and he wrote the songs and arranged them and everything. But the Pink Panther theme was so recognizable. And I'm sure even our grandkids who never watched the Pink Panther movies or seen the Pink Panther cartoon, I bet if they heard it somewhere, they'd recognize it. They wouldn't know it's a Pink Panther theme. That was 1963. Coincidentally, the saxophone player that has that tenor saxophone solo that comes in is so smooth, and it's just great. He actually passed away. Plaz Johnson was his name. And he actually passed away just last week at the age of 93.
Thank goodness we can still listen to his works.
Yep, the Pink Panther theme. Then I remember this. Once again, I'm sure this guy was on Ed Sullivan, I'm sure more than a few times back in the mid-60s. Alpert. Yeah. Kind of a bigger guy with a goatee, and he played trumpet. And he had a big hit called Java and some other songs too. I think it was from New Orleans, and I'm sure probably was on Johnny Carson and any variety show that was on then. I remember seeing Alpert a lot. Java in 1964. It hit number 4 on the Hot Billboard 100, and it won a Grammy for the best performance instrumental with an orchestra. That was memorable. And then another trumpet. And you know what? I played saxophone in junior high. I wasn't always the biggest fan of trumpets, but a lot of these songs are trumpet players. And this one, I still love this to today. And I bought the album, Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass in 1965. There was a song called, there was a BBC play called A Taste of Honey, and there was a song for it in 1960. And Herb Alpert, well, actually, the Beatles made it a song. It wasn't a hit, but I knew it because everybody knew the Beatles songs from the albums. 1963, the Beatles did A Taste of Honey with vocals. The instrumental that made it to number 4 was Herb Alpert, A Taste of Honey. And you'd hear that bass drum at the beginning, boom, boom, boom. It gets you going. And it's fun. And his albums were a big hit back in the mid-60s. Excellent.
Yeah. I mean, game shows like The Dating Game.
A dating game, yeah.
Everywhere. Herb Alpert,
yep,
the Tijuana Brass. Good memories there hearing that. There's a song from the past that is a classic in the jazz world. In fact, it changed up jazz. And I believe the year was 1959, a song called Take 5 by the Dave Brubeck Quartet. And Dave Brubeck had such a cool look to him. I mean, I think that song brought a lot of people to really love jazz because it used revolutionary jazz rhythm with an unprecedented 5/4 time. It just changed the way people listen. And it was written by saxophonist Paul Desmond and recorded with Dave Brubeck Quartet in 59, like I said. The track pairs a catchy, syncopated melody with Joe Morella's masterful drum solo. It earned the title as the best-selling jazz single of all time tunes.
Well, I'm sure. Yeah, it brought jazz to mainstream. And I remember hearing it a little bit, but like I say, the older I got, I thought, wow, this is such a cool song. And you're right. It's good enough with the solos and the piano playing and the saxophone, but even the drum solo is just like, that's so cool. And he didn't overdo it. It was great.
If you've ever seen any of the videos from them performing, usually it's in black and white. Well, they just oozed cool. Some of the performers you see that jump around on the stage and act crazy. And then on the other end, you've got Dave Brubeck and his bandmates. They're just looking at each other. They're talking with their eyes and music. They're just feeling it. And that's what makes it so cool. And it's a great, great song to boot. So that's what comes to my mind from some of the earliest instrumentals that I remember hearing. So 1959 tunes, I was 2 years old.
Right.
It's been around forever, that song, and I learned to really love it.
My wife Barbara's sister's husband is a jazz player out east, and he actually played with Dave Brubeck a couple times.
Cool.
I can't imagine. Yeah.
And then I'm going to jump ahead a little bit to the late 60s, 67 to be exact, MacArthur Park. And it's a song that if you took it literally, this is a stupid song. Jimmy Webb wrote it. He was going through a breakup and he's just relating things he saw out in the park with his girlfriend when they'd have lunch or hang out. Old men playing checkers by the trees. You know, someone left a cake out in the rain and then he took it to, I don't know if I can take it. It took so long to bake it. Well, he's talking about his relationship, you know, just tying all that together. In the times, there was a lot of rock drums in these ballads. He's singing this melodic line about this relationship. And then all of a sudden, boom, the drums really kick in. All of a sudden, cool rock, you know, with the instrumentation, the build-up. Just beautiful, artistic. And a lot of people may not have gotten the meaning and what really they're striving for. And that was a song that came out in 67. Harris's version peaked at number 2 in the U.S. Billboard charts and number 4 in the U.K. singles chart. So both sides of the ocean, it was a success. Canada had peaked at number 12. And then along came Donna Summer.
Yeah, right. I forgot about that, and I'm a Donna Summer fan. Yeah.
She was pretty good. I wasn't a big disco person at the time, but I really liked her songs for some reason.
Oh, I was a big fan.
And Webb said it was an end of a love affair. In the song, a lot of what he saw, he put in there. So that's pretty cool. MacArthur Park. That's a park in Los Angeles.
When it came out, I thought it was an odd song, but I always listened to it. And you're right, the way it changed everything. And Richard Harris does not have a great voice. It just like everything fit. And the way it changed the tempos and everything else, I always enjoyed it. And I still hear it on our oldies station every now and then. And yeah, I'll definitely listen and sing along, you know, because I can sing as good as Richard Harris. So anyway, that's cool.
Let me make a point here, a couple things. Number one, in earlier podcasts, I have thrown in sound clips but they're getting really tight on copyrights. They allowed them to be broadcast as long as you're not monetizing. And if I ever hope to do that, I've decided to make it part of my production now where I try not to put clips in unless I know that they're not copyright violations. Yeah, Richard Harris wasn't a great singer, but he was an actor and he felt things, right?
Well, yeah, it was great. Yeah, it fit. It just fit.
MacArthur Park.
Great pick.
Comment on any of these songs.
Yeah,
Tunes
please
and
do.
I would like to know what you think. And if you have any choices you want us to know about, because we're going to go with this format more times because there's so many songs and categories that we can cover. And right now, I'm curious to see what else you have, Ron.
Well, I'm just going to throw these out real quick because I want to do a whole podcast about TV and movie themes. And I'm just going to say the theme to Peter Gunn is so cool. Peter Gunn was a detective back in the 60s. So cool. The theme to Romeo and Juliet. The theme to Route 66. What a classic song. And the TV show, some of these TV shows like Peter Gunn and Route 66, they were kind of adult theme stuff when I was 10 years old, but still, that's great. And of course, the James Bond theme and maybe one of the top ones ever was Mission Impossible. But we'll talk about those some other podcasts.
Yeah, we'll make that a whole thing. Peter Gunn. That came out, I think, in the late 50s into the early 60s, and that theme just got you going.
You could, or a detective figured things out. Just he's on the case. So anyway, I'm going to go with start with more of the rock and roll stuff. There isn't a lot. One of my favorite performers, Todd Rundgren, only had one real instrumental. A lot of it started, and I've heard this from other musicians talking, that if they like the guitar, one of the inspirations for them was the guitar group that didn't sing at all. It was just instrumental, was the Ventures. And back in 1960, they took a song that was 6 years old by Jimmy Smith called Walk, Don't Run. And that was a #2 hit back in 1960. So back once again, I was just 6 years old at the time. But yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, people at home, put these songs on. They're great. They'll bring back such memories. Like you said in the opening tunes, is that most of them are good. And sometimes you get some bad memories from songs, but Walk Don't Run was a great instrumental.
The Ventures, they were big time. And in fact, they're one of my favorite songs, which I liked quite a bit. I want to go to the Champs doing the song Tequila. And it had one lyric to it. It was tequila. But back in 1958, it was actually a B-side to a song. And somehow somebody found it. It made #1 in 1958, Tequila by the Champs. And of course, a lot of you will remember Pee Wee Herman did a great dance to it in Pee Wee's Big Adventure. And that's my grandkids know that. I mean, it's like, that's a great song because what Pee Wee Herman puts on high heels and dances in a motorcycle bar on the bar. Tequila, 1958. Going back to some more kind of jazzy rhythm and blues stuff. And I actually was lucky enough to meet Booker T of Booker T and the MGs. Well, it might have been about 10 years ago now in a bar. When he was 17 years old in the July of 1962, he was a famous keyboard session player that was on hundreds and hundreds of songs, and especially a lot of #1 and top 10 songs. Him and the incredible guitarist, Steve Cropper, were just sitting around in the studio, and they just started jamming. And next thing you know, they came up with the song Green Onions. And people out there listening, put on Green Onions if it doesn't sound familiar, and you'll go, oh yeah. I played that for my grandkids all the time, and they'd just move. And actually, once again, that was the B-side of what was supposed to be a hit single. But somebody flipped it over, and that's his #1 song, Green Onions by Booker T and the MGs. And it was #3 in the top 100 and #1 on the R&B charts, Green Onions. Great instrumental.
Indeed. I want to jump in here with one of my favorite prog rock groups, and they use some interesting instruments to make Days of Future Past. The album came out in 1967, but the single that I want to talk about, one of my favorite Feel High Without Getting High songs, was a song called Tuesday Afternoon. The lyrics in there are amazing. Justin Hayward wrote that song and has the lead vocal on it. And the instrument that was used besides the orchestra was a mellotron. And basically that was a keyboard that had a bunch of taped loops. And so when you press on a key, you hear a certain instrument, a certain sound that's prevalent in that and Nights in White Satin. And then, of course, the symphony orchestra added on that. If I was on a desert island, I would want Days of Future Past to be one of the albums that I could have to hear because I never get sick of it. But basically the song Tuesday Afternoon, Justin was out in a field. He was just sitting there and felt inspired looking around him. Tuesday afternoon, I'm just beginning to see, now I'm on my way. It doesn't matter to me, chasing the clouds away. You can just picture that, looking around and clouds are moving. So it's like they're getting chased away. My favorite line here is something calls to me. The trees are drawing me near. I've got to find out why. So just imagine, Ron, and viewers and listeners, you're sitting in that field and you see the trees and they're moving in the wind. And it looks like the leaves are saying, come here. Come here. Yeah. So the leaves are drawing me near. I got to find out why. Those gentle voices I hear, the wind going through the leaves, explains it all with a sigh.
Yeah.
How poetic is that?
Yeah.
I know amazing. I'm nerding out here, but I figured all that out when I used to listen to it.
Sure.
I'd listen to it on a transistor radio. I was feeling everything he was singing about. So that's why I have to have that on my list. In Canada, it charted pretty high, number 12. And it peaked at number 24. It's got a timeless sound to it, so everybody seems to know that song, even though it didn't hit number 1. You got to remember that the Moody Blues were more of an album band. FM started coming into play on the radio instead of top 40. Their works of art comes through their albums. And again, that's a good one to go down a rabbit hole on, is this song, Tuesday Afternoon. And Days of Future Past is a concept album where they go through a whole day and a whole night, and they have little songs for everything, and there's different paces and lots of orchestration. It's one of my favorite bands, along with Gypsy.
Early progressive rock, and it puts you in the mood, and it's amazing. And another band like that, Chicago. Now, they had a lot of lyrics, but they also, would do a lot of horn stuff around Fancy Colors. Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, their arrangements were incredible. They were one of the few horn bands at the time, and they really could do some great instrumentals.
Yeah, the early stuff, fantastic.
Yeah.
Then they became known more as yacht rock type of stuff, but which I still enjoyed.
Yeah, they were unique, just like the Moody Blues, unique, and just it is timeless. You could listen to them now and still enjoy it. Well, I'm going to go to a few more. You're right. There's a certain time, it must have been, I don't know if it was the mid-60s, probably about 67, 68, where albums were more important. But up until then, it was just pretty much singles. And one of the biggest singles in 1963 was the Safaris' Wipeout. And, you hear that drumming at the beginning and someone screaming, Wipeout. And it was done by the Safaris in Glendora, California in 1963. I got to number 2. A great drumming thing. And I think that's what a lot of kids would do the Wipeout. Wipeout was great. Okay, now this is another Venture song. And once again, it was the theme to a TV show, Hawaii Five-0. And I liked it. And I liked it a lot. But then, and I'm not even the biggest fan of marching bands, but when I would see a marching band, and they would usually do this, if it's a good marching band, when they do Hawaii Five-0 with all the drums and everything, man, I want to get up and jump. Hawaii Five-0 made it to number 5 in 1968. Great, great instrumental.
And the high school bands used to do Chicago, 25 or 6 to 4.
25 or 6 to 4, yeah.
You made it when the marching bands were doing your music.
And I can't remember specifically, but I bet Wipeout was a big marching band song. It was a number 2 hit by Billy Preston, who I'm a big fan of because he was like the 5th Beatle. But he had a real funky song in 1971. And once again, it was a B-side, but it got to number 2. It was Out of Space by Billy Preston. Very funky, and the clavinet, just a fun song. I got one more before my biggest one. Jessica by the Allman Brothers. Now, I don't think it was the biggest hit. Only got to number 65, but anybody that knows the Allman Brothers, Jessica is one of the most beautiful songs with the acoustic guitars and the piano, done by the Allman Brothers in 1973. And what I find unique about it is Dickie Betts was a guitarist besides Duane Allman. Dickie Betts wrote it, and there was a famous guitarist. Read about other guitarists. A lot of them like this jazz guitarist. I think he was from like the 20s or 30s, Django Reinhardt. Rock guitarists to this day still revere him the way he could play. And Dickie Betts wrote this in honor of Django Reinhardt. And he had two fingers on his left hand. He was missing the two fingers and a thumb, apparently. But anyway, he wrote it, and it's an amazing song.
It is.
And it won a Grammy for Best Rock Instrumental in 1996 because a TV show called Top Gear revived it for their theme. And it was a song back in 1973 for the Allman Brothers, and it got Best Rock Instrumental in 1996. That's pretty cool. Here's a few other ones. Hocus Pocus. Have you heard that lately?
I know the song very well.
Yeah.
Midnight Special, they performed on there. The guy that sang the lyrics, it's all yodeling. And he's bat crap crazy. He's fun to watch, and it's really talented musicians.
Yep. It's a Dutch group called Focus. 1970 had the song Hocus Pocus, instrumental except for, yes, he yodels in the song. There's an amazing guitar riffs in it, and he plays the flute. Besides Jethro Tull, you just never heard flute really in rock and roll, but it fit. And it's just a fun song. It's the kind of song you listen to and you just want to move. This is one of my favorite songs. We play this from our grandson, Frankenstein, by the Edgar Winter Group. And Rick Derringer was a producer and one of the guitarists in it. But Frankenstein, what a great song with drums and that timbali. Edgar Winter himself, he plays keyboard, plays saxophone, and the timbales. He does a back and forth with the drummer, but he's the drumming, and Edgar Winter's hitting the timbales. It sounds almost like a Frankenstein monster walking, which I was a big fan of the monster Frankenstein. But actually, the drummer came up with the name because there's so many parts to it. It's a longer song. It can be like 6-7 minutes, maybe even longer in person live. Apparently, when they recorded it, it was so many sections, and they had to tape it all together to make one song. So with all the taped together parts, the drummer said, that looks like a Frankenstein because it's all put together. Anyway, that's what they came up with. And till this day, I've got the album and I still love to play it. My very, very favorite instrumental is by a man named Mason Williams, who was actually the head comedy writer for the Smothers Brothers show, but he played acoustic guitar and he made a song originally called Classical Gasoline. When someone was just transcribing it, they just put down classical gas, so they kept that. But what an amazing song. I talk about it starts off slow with the acoustic guitar and then keeps building and building, and the orchestra comes in. And that's by far my favorite instrumental of all time.
Yeah, and the drums come in style of MacArthur's Park. I mean, it was that late 60s era that was becoming a big deal. Rock orchestration. That's a great choice. I have one that I want to mention. It's actually orchestra and vocals. It was number one forever. It's a song called Bridge Over Troubled Water.
Oh, yeah.
I just loved it. I think I was 13 when it came out. A song by Simon Garfunkel. Paul Simon wrote the song, and he didn't want to sing it, though. He thought that Art should sing it, and then he did finally give it a try. I can't imagine that song without Art Garfunkel singing it. I can't imagine that. And it was so iconic. Let's see. Let me read some facts here. It reached number one on the Billboard charts, Billboard Hot 100. And on February 28th, 1970, I would have been 13, it stayed on top for 6 weeks to him.
Amazing.
And if you haven't listened to that song before, which I can't imagine, or if you have heard it before, go listen to it. It just is a beautiful work of art. Art Garfunkel's voice is amazing, and he still goes out and does shows now. You know, he's getting older, but he's an amazing vocalist. And I read in college, and remember encyclopedias, boomers?
Sure. Oh, you bet. World Book. The World Book.
I was in college, and I looked him up, Art Garfunkel. And the first thing they mentioned about him, Art Garfunkel possesses perfect pitch.
Right.
And boom, I've never forgotten that. So I did learn something in college, Mom.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, those two, I think a lot of people look to the Everly Brothers for their harmonies and stuff. And I think that's for sure what Simon and Garfunkel and Lennon and McCartney and Harrison did. Yeah, his voice is perfect. I've got an album of his, Art Garfunkel's, that is nothing, there's no hits on it, but it's one of those beautiful albums written by Jimmy Webb, who wrote MacArthur Park.
Right.
Great song. So anyway, yeah, this has been great. It brought back a lot of memories, songs from my past that I still love to hear.
Viewers and listeners, we would love to have comments from you. And you can comment below if you're on YouTube, and you can send an email. It'll be in the show notes. Obviously, we didn't even scratch the surface of this category, but I promise you that Ron Tunes Tunby and Retro Rick Reed will get together and we will put some more shows together. And we'd love to have some of your ideas. We didn't cover all of them. Just know that, because I do get comments. You didn't do this one. You didn't do. Yeah, we didn't do them because
let us know.
It's a half-hour show. Basically, we try to keep it to a half hour or less. Ron, closing thoughts.
Just keep listening to music, no matter what it is. Keep listening to music.
For Ron Tunes Tunby, I'm Rick Reed for My Boomer Buddies podcast. Thanks for watching and listening. Until next time, we'll see you
around the block. Little Rascals. Week.